Hi, it's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to my channel where I make a lot of cake and cookie decorating tutorials, as well as give a lot of baking business tips. Now, I know I've made several videos that are very similar to this, and I believe I have a short all about royal icing flooding as well, but I wanted to make a more clear video that's very dedicated to looking specifically at the way that the texture of icing should be. I say the words pipe and flood a lot in my videos, so I really wanted to make a more dedicated video that could be referenced whenever I mention this type of pipe and flood consistency in my intermediate to more advanced decorating videos. Now let's first start off with my royal icing recipe. It's 1 cup of icing sugar and 1 tablespoon of meringue powder and as much water as needed. So as you saw there in the beginning, I mixed up the icing sugar and the meringue powder first, and then I went ahead and added some water. I'm showing you here what too loose of consistency looks like. So it is staying on that spatula. It's falling off rather quickly off those beaters. And what that is telling me is that yes, I probably will be able to flood a cookie with it, but I might end up with a little bit of translucent icing, and I'm probably going to get icing that falls off of the edge. So what I added in there was a little bit more thickened royal icing. Now, if you don't have royal icing that's already prepared, you're going to want to add a little bit more icing sugar and a little bit more meringue powder. In order to avoid that, of course, you want to make sure that maybe you're adding your water a little bit at a time, a little bit slower so that you're getting the right consistency. I can see now that the royal icing is hanging on a lot more to the beater, which is great, but it's still folding into itself rather quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit more thickened royal icing in there just to make sure that it's just that extra little bit thicker. The key here as well is to fully activate the ingredients of the meringue powder, meaning if you just mix this by hand, you probably won't get that nice puffy, fluffy icing. You really need to make sure that you're incorporating it very well and use some sort of stand mixer or hand mixer in order to get that nice and fluffy. If you don't, it's going to fall flat and you might end up again with a translucent looking royal icing. I highly recommend that you use tipless piping bags. I find it a lot easier and the flow of this just works so much nicer, but it's totally up to you. What I'm showing you here is when the royal icing is just that slight bit too thick. So nothing is flowing over the edges, which is great, but this doesn't actually go completely flat. My personal preference is when I don't have to shake the cookie or pop any bubbles whatsoever and it just falls into itself. One of the biggest mistakes I used to always make when I first started cookie decorating was just going with the wrong texture. Empty out your bag. This is very easy to do when you're using tipless piping bags, and try again. So what I did here in this demonstration is I loosened up this royal icing quite a bit so that it would not have any type of lump or bump on it. Again, you can see though it's not flowing over the edge. It's really important to outline your cookie first and then go ahead and fill it in right away. I've had some questions on my videos whether or not I let that icing set and then fill it in, or do I fill it in right away? And the answer is fill it in right away, or else you're going to get this definitive looking line on the outside. Again, this is just preference, but my whole cookie career, I've always been looking for that puffy royal icing look that doesn't have those lines. Some people do like to use a different type of piping icing on the outside, which is a lot thicker, and then that way they don't really have to care about what the texture is in the center, but it does create a completely different look. Once again, going back in, and I want to show you on this singular cookie just how different two royal icing textures can look, and the difference is honestly maybe about 1 to 2 tablespoons of water, but I'm filling this in with that royal icing that's just slightly thick. It's a little thick. It will go smooth-ish, but there will be some lumps and bumps on. Now this is a little bit of not really wet on wet technique, but it is using the same consistency of icing right next to each other because again, I don't want a definitive line in that center there. So I'm filling this in with a bit looser of a texture, and you can see it's just that slight bit flatter. I do have a little bit of bumps on that white side, and you can see I get a little bit more peaking on that white side as well. So it really does make a difference, but again, it depends. What are you doing with your cookie? If you need it to be completely flat, I would take the time to go back and make sure you add in a little bit more water or do whatever it is that you need to do in order to make those royal icing sugar cookies nice and flat. The biggest takeaway from this video though is for sure using that royal icing recipe that I provided you with, also making sure to add the water little by little and whip it for a sufficient amount of time. If it doesn't look nice and white and fluffy, you didn't whip it for long enough. I tend to whip my royal icing for about 10 minutes or so before it's ready to go. Now don't over whip or else it will kind of get this weird texture on top. So be careful with that as well. Now let's get into the subscriber submission of the video. These really stuck out to me. I absolutely love when donuts are placed on other types of desserts. Definitely go and check them out on Instagram and be sure to drop them a like and a comment. And if you want to be the next subscriber submission of the video, then please follow me at SD Bake Shop on Instagram, where you can either tag me in a photo or send me a photo. Any and all dessert levels are welcome. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!